We're happy to see you. Happy you have time to give us sweet Sadhu Sangha.
To share the good news.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the good news. That's, we can say all of the teachers, they're coming to share the good news. Right? This is like the happy, uh the hope for us. Yeah, that there is good news. That's the thing. Because life is very strange, actually, and can be very dark and confusing, and there's a lot of suffering. So, because it's so intense, in the West, there's a big emphasis on like therapy, right? But if we're looking at being born, right? What is it saying in the scriptures? It says Janma Mrityu Jara Dehi, right? Birth, death, old age, and disease. And from another perspective, we can say those are all traumas, actually, right? Getting old is very difficult. Disease is very difficult. Birth is so difficult, they say, that we forget the past. It's so traumatizing that we can't even remember who we are. And of course, the never ending fear that all the things we're attached to, we're going to leave behind. Right. So life is intense. Even if we get like the smallest version, it's very intense. If you're born into a body, you're here for a very intense experience. So this idea that there's good news is serious. It has to be able to contend with a very intense world. And it has to be more powerful than those very, very difficult things. So then we have that deep gratitude. Oh, some good news has come despite myself. This is pretty exciting. So it's interesting to think about, though, this idea of things are coming to you whether you invite them or not. And the source of those things loves you more than you love yourself. That's a major sentence. Major. Because on some level, we must not believe that. That's why we're full of suspicion and fear and worrying about how to protect ourselves all day. And they're saying the very source of what you're looking for loves you more than you love yourself. And there's no error that's happening. And you go, oh, how can there be no error? Like, how is it possible that all these things that I'm seeing, so many dark, all the betrayal, all of the darkness, all of the suffering, and there's not an accident going on? Then what that means is that there's something very, very mysterious about spiritual life. And it's underneath the surface of what things look like. Like the exterior of what things are is not the whole story. And this, because we're not like, this is not the whole story. We're not just a bag of blood and bones and neurons. So if we're not just this thing, the environment is not just that external view of things. And then we have a small idea that the quest is much bigger, actually, than what we think it is. Right. So the external wave of energy is going to say, like, if you just get more stuff, if you just exploit a little more efficiently, you're going to be in ecstasy, right? So you just need to make a little more money and people need to do what you think is the right thing, right? You're the master. And if just all these people would just like listen to what you want to do with the day, you'd be really happy. That's really what it's saying in the West, right? Like, you're not the friend that I need right now. You're not the thing that I want in my life right now. I don't like you much anymore. You're not serving me. It's actually pretty annoying how much you don't serve me. So that's one pull, and our mind loves it, right? So we wake up in the morning, we open our eyes, and we think of all the things that we want to accomplish in the day and that need to happen. And if they don't happen, we're already feeling the first threads of disturbance. Maybe the thing I want to happen won't happen. Vaishnavas are saying something very different. And it's an immediate relief for that control tripping mind, right? Because the studies, even in the West, on the mind are very interesting. Says the mind is consumed with control, not with happiness. So this idea from Bhagavad Gita that's coming, Udared atmanatmanam natmanam avashare. It says your mind can be your best friend or your worst enemy. This is a very serious verse, actually, because it's pointing out something that has a tremendous amount of power in your perspective. So how do we get really, and even Srila Guru Maharaj's own words, he says, all suffering occurs within the mind. And when I first heard that sentence, I was shocked. How is it possible that all suffering can occur within the mind? How? So many things. What if it's, something that seems very obviously physical? How is that just in my mind? But the more that you contemplate it, the more that you start to dive into that, you start to realize that the mind is actually the source. It's this strange substance, and it's on autopilot, right? It's like a band-aid that protects itself. Like it immediately has an AI kind of working inside of it. And the AI of the mind is everybody else is bad. I'm kind of decent and good. And if I just fix a few things, it's going to work out fine. Right. And this is basically aversion into suffering. So when we know, why are the scriptures saying it's a forest fire of material desire? Means you're suffering like, and then Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Asha Pasha Shata Shata Klesha Deabra. My so many cares are my so many snares. Snares means like traps. All of these little things, they're trapping me, and they're ultimately like making the world I live in very small, right? And the more control that I exert, the smaller the world is that I live in. And the less revealed the world is. Very difficult to actually know someone because we're dealing with the version of them that we project with our mind. So the scriptures are giving a very beautiful and mysterious kind of message. And the beginning of that is not everything that you think is true. This is very destabilizing for the mind, actually. And then Srila Guru Maharaj's own words, humility means being open to infinite possibility. Someone who is coming into contact with something wonderful is seeing more, not less. So they're starting to realize that they're in contact with something very grand, very noble, very exciting, very fresh. What do we see in the scriptures all the time? The Lord is coming in an unexpected way over and over. Nobody knows he's going to look like a boar when he arrives as a boar. And we know he will come again in another way that we can't recognize. And the question is, are we going to be so covered with ignorance that we don't recognize when something wonderful is happening? Right? Many saints have walked this earth, and they have been mysterious to some people and wrenching open the hearts of others. So then we know that there's something that's kind of covering us all the time. And the scriptures are saying it's a mountain of selfishness, and that makes your world very isolated, actually, and very like all of the things of Kali Yuga, all the specials, right? All the anger, all the lust, all the greed, all these things, they're all coming in that very small space. And the more we think of ourselves, the more unhappy we are. It's just the truth. It's not really like debatable, right? Otherwise, we would be feeling a lot of ecstasy right now because we spent a lot of time thinking about our lives and how to manipulate them to be really happy, right? So then we know like we've kind of failed to some extent. That's really the beginning of Sri Guru and his grace. Introduction paragraph of Sri Guru and his grace from Srila Sridhar Maharaj. That's the message. He says, we're searching for something that's outside of our own world, right? The God that you're looking for is not inside the control trip of your mind. And it's not what we think he or she is because we don't know it. We're imagining a place that's something else. That's what yoga means, right? We're talking about bhakti yoga. Yoga means from the root word in Sanskrit, yuj, to connect. Doesn't mean to control in a tiny, small mind the infinite, which it can't do. It means to connect to something larger that is divine, actually. And you're meant for that, right? That's that famous verse on the back of Search for Sri Krishna. Oh, you sons of nectar, you sons of the nectarine ocean sea, you are born in nectar. You won't be satisfied by anything but nectar. And you're meant for that. So that's the quest. That you're searching for something divine and beautiful, and it's outside of your mind. And then that makes us actually very curious about this place that we find ourselves. Right? We find ourselves in strange circumstances, right? Strange times, and the mystery is very strong and the adventure is very dramatic, right? Nobody's getting out alive. Right? And what does it mean if there is there's a length, like there's an end to this particular version of lesson? It means those moments are very valuable, right? And the first thing in economics, what makes something valuable if there's not very much of it? Why do we have in the 9 processes of bhakti, one of them is practicing remembrance? Because we're very forgetful. Every night we forget who we are completely with a different value system. Every day we forget that we're going to die. Even that realization, what to speak of something divine, right? That's the beginning. But the realization that we won't be here forever, we will not even treat the people that we see in our daily moments the same way. This is still like not moving towards divine service. It's just heightening the value of the moments that we have. Oh, if I'm only going to see you a very short period of time, I would express myself very carefully. I would live my life very carefully. There's very few opportunities. These are rare opportunities, and they shouldn't be wasted. That's really what the scriptures are trying to express to us in a very interesting way. Don't waste something that's valuable, right? So this idea that it's very fortunate, right? You're going, okay, and I don't want to waste something that has come to me. And because free will is a mysterious and amazing thing, right? So Gandhi defined free will as the right to do wrong, right? Because it's not really love if I say you have to love me, right? That's another thing. So we have the chance to do some wrong. And why? Because free-flowing love is not even comparable to anything forced. And the Supreme Lord is not going to be satisfied by anything other than the real thing. And we won't be satisfied by anything other than the real thing, right? Counterfeit is not satisfying us. If we could be satisfied by something that wasn't the real thing, then we could just take enough drugs where we would just feel ecstasy all the time. But we know it's not true. And we would just get enough money where we could control the environment, and then we would have ecstasy, and we know it's not true. Or we could have all the enjoyment of the family that we We can make all of those things are external and they cannot feed something that's internal inside of us. We have to know it. We have to know it deeply because we can go on a false quest. You know, that's what free will means. You can go on a false quest. You can say, I'll find my deepest happiness if I just get some stability. I just got to make a little more money. And we know it's not true. You know, to a certain extent, if we can't survive, it's very, you know, then it consumes us. But anything after that, it's not going to produce ecstasy. And that illusion kind of aspect, it's very, very amazing. Because now we get a little idea of the place that we're within. Right? Now we understand all of this energy that's moving. It's kind of seducing us endlessly into all of these side quests. Right? And then Krishna's even saying, if you really want something, you ask the demigods. Through my power, I give it to the demigods and they will give it to you. Like you really want it, you can. And he goes, but my devotees come to me. Right? And so the Vaishnavas are refining their prayers, right? They're refining past the point of like, I just need this thing. I need that. They're starting to change. You put me wherever you want me to go. And I want to go there because what you want for me is good. I've been making plans and I want to be yours. Right? Bhaktivinoda Thakur, very beautiful song, Prabhu Tavapada Yuge, is the fourth verse of Shikshastakam of Mahaprabhu. So Mahaprabhu gave 8 verses, and then Bhaktivinoda Thakur made a song about each one of those verses. And the 4th song, Nadanam Najanam Nasundarim Kavitam Va Jagarisha Kamaye, it's one of the most amazing kirtans in all time, and it's an amazing verse. And it's saying, all of those things, right? All the power, all the money, all the heavenly planets, all the mystical energies, right? Because it's not just heaven is considered negligible. It's amazing to think that. Think of all the energy of this world just to get a little ahead. And they're saying in the beginning of Bhagavatam, this scripture is for those who think of heaven and kingdoms as not so important. Then what are we talking about in terms of value? How wonderful must be the Lord that people who have the possibility of unlimited wealth in multiple lifetimes, they're saying, it's nothing. Just to see your feet is nourishing my whole existence so deeply that I can't even imagine conceiving of anything else. How wonderful must be. How are they saying, I'm saying all these things about you, and I feel like I can't say enough wonderful things about you. How wonderful must be the Lord. All these saints, thousands of years, they're saying, I'm feeling unsuccessful in my attempt at glorifying how wonderful you are. That's what we're trying to talk about. Something where the most elevated souls who have the possibility to do anything with their time, right? Truly free. And they're saying, we're falling short. And then Bhaktivinoda Thakur in that song at the very end, he says, Pashu Paki Hoye Taki Svarge Bani Roye. He goes, you want to put me into the body of a beast, or the body of a bird? You want to throw me into heaven? You want to throw me into a dark? I want to go wherever you want me to go so that I can now love your lotus feet as much as I now love the objects of my senses. This is such a prayer. And the grace of the devotees is that we get to read such a prayer because we can't even imagine such a selfless world, right? Like it's all fine when, you know, we have everything's kind of working out. People are sort of nice to us. Ego's doing really good. You know? But they're saying, no, I don't care whether, like, what are they talking about? Seva, sukha, dukkha, parama sampadam, right? Whether I'm happy or sad, that's not the most important thing. I want to be connected to you. And I'm willing to go through anything. And we can feel it when we come into contact with someone like that. We feel their bravery. They're not worried all the time about just self-preservation and like this small, there's a fearlessness that starts to come out. And what is Kaviraj Govinda Das Kaviraj? What is he saying? Bhaja Huremana Sri Nanda Nandana Abhaya Charanara Vindare. Abhaya means fearless. He goes, for those who can offer and surrender themselves, they can become fearless. Oh, my mind, just worship the lotus feet of the son of Nanda. By doing so, one will become fearless. If we go on a little journey interior, we'll start to see how much we fear. Because not only are we dishonest with our estimation of the environment, but we're dishonest to ourselves. That's the big danger of being dishonest, actually. It's not so much that we're tricking other people, which has its own karma, but it's that we won't be able to find truth in ourselves. It's very dangerous, actually. That's why, like, all the scriptures are agreeing, right? Like, be honest, be truthful, be humble, be like all of these things, all of these energies, they carry us somewhere and they all have gifts inside of them, right? Like, why is the Bible saying, like, lust, anger, greed, gluttony, like these things carry us somewhere. And we don't really want to know where they carry us, to be honest, right? They have some suffering inside of them because the environment is built perfectly. It will come back to us. That's what karma means. I'm pushing something out and something is coming back immediately. So in Greek storytelling, there's a very famous premise where it says the moment that hubris comes in the character, and hubris means pride. So the moment, and in a story or a movie or something like that, that is the moment the bad guy appears, you could say, right? That moment that hubris comes, they say in that exact moment in the environment, the nemesis comes, the exact counterbalance. So when we throw something into the environment, that thing is already invited to come back immediately in the moment that we do it. And the reason we don't always see it is because it's separated by time. So it's not instantly that it comes back. It's waiting for that perfect time to come back. There's an invitation. So when we speak words that aren't truth, they will also come back to us. When we don't do things in certain, when we act in certain, they're all coming back. And why? Is it just like this kind of hellish karmic world? Said no. There's a benefic God beneath that. And it's not allowing us to like trick our way into being spiritual, right? Because we need to go through some purification. We need to be transformed. And we know on some level, we don't want to be the same person right now that dies the same way we are now. So that environment is coming to actually transform us. And all those things, we don't get to circumvent. So then it goes, Bhaja Hure Mana Sri Nanda Nandana Abhaya Charanara Vindure. In Sanskrit, the search for the self is called Atma Nikshepa, or self-analysis. And this is a part of spiritual life. And self-analysis, we will start to see that we're a little more fearful than we thought. And how do we get rid of this never-ending fear? And in Bhaja Hurima, he says, if we can learn how to surrender, if we can learn how to offer ourselves, including the mind is also something that can be offered, then we can get some relief. And this relief is not small. And it's in our real lives. Because spiritual life isn't just like fluffy for like 20 years down the road. It's right now, right? That's why that Guru Maharaj quoted that sentence, everywhere center, nowhere circumference. God is everywhere. That's what infinite means. Very present in our lives. And it's not just some impractical philosophy to just make your mind relieve. There's actually nourishment inside of it. And this is so hopeful. This is the good news. He is there and he is affectionate to you, and she is affectionate to you. And they're waiting actually for an internal transformation. And that internal transformation is a heart transformation, actually. And I will just read like 2 paragraphs from one of my favorite excerpts from Loving Search for the Lost Servant. It's on page 18. If you want to read it yourself, I've read it many times because I feel like it nourishes me. And I hope that you will also appreciate it and feel, because it's very practical, actually. And spiritual life should feel deeply relevant. It's not just something from the past, from thousands of years ago, and it's not something for the future, but it's very alive. And if we're feeling that something isn't alive for us, like we got stuck in a routine, that's the call to go deeper. That's the call that whatever satisfied us before is not enough anymore. And we're going to have to again renew that quest and go, why did I come? We should remember why we came. And Guru Maharaj's own words, he goes, we must never forget that inner Messiah who brought us here in the first place. We didn't come to become a manager of something. We didn't come to just be part of a group. We left the group to become part of a group. And many groups are on the way. That's not why we're here, necessarily. Deepest connection to search, and deeper and deeper and deeper, and what that means. But this section here, very, very amazing. So page 18, Guru Maharaj's words. Bhagavad Gita says, you cannot change the environment. If you want peace, you must regulate yourself according to the environment. This is Guru Maharaj's summary of the entire scripture. So in Salt Lake City, we've been reading Bhagavad Gita for 15 years, maybe something like that. And I don't have that summary. Guru Maharaj has it. This is what there's a title, very amazing title from India's very sophisticated titles. And the title Srila Bhaktisiddhanta gave Guru Maharaj is Shastra Nipuna. Means there's an ocean of scriptures and he can perceive the deepest message of the scriptures. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, who's, a super genius, we can say, right? Like he was known to have a photographic memory. Even in his 60s, he could say line by line his textbooks from when he was like 4 years old, right? Like super genius. And even intelligence, we know, is not a divine kind of genius, right? And he was saying this about Srila Sridhar Maharaj. He is Shastra Nipuna. He can see what is important in the scripture out of the ocean, and he can pull its deepest meaning. So Guru Maharaj's own words, you need to try and adjust yourself with the environment because you are not the master of the environment. Then this is Guru Maharaj's words, all your energy should be devoted to regulating yourself and not the outside world. This is the key to success in spiritual life. We should pay attention when we hear a sentence. This is the key. It's showing us that there's a world behind that gateway, and it's rich, full of feeling, full of transformation, and full of life. We are not the controller of everything. So amazing, actually. And it's a relief for the mind. If the mind is trying to control everything, it's so tense, so small, very, very tiny world, completely freaked out all the time, right? Like we know there's so many anxieties that we can, and they're all from worrying about the things that we don't want to happen will happen, and the things we do want to happen may not happen, right? You can take that going on and on. Then this is an amazing sentence. Bhakti does not depend on the environment or on the dealings of others. It is causeless and unstoppable. Amazing, hopeful news. Nothing can obscure that flow except my own ego. I am my own greatest enemy. Then the verse we were talking about earlier, Udared Atmanatmanam Natmanam Avashare. We can elevate ourselves or degrade ourselves. We are our own best friend or worst enemy. No force outside can check us if we are sincere. This is such a tremendous sentence. There's so much inside of it. We keep thinking, I'll be a little more spiritual when work is a little less. When my family doesn't need quite as much, when the politics are a little more in line with my politics, this is a trap. It's a distraction. It's a side quest. There is something wholesale about this is the environment that God put me in. And I'm willing to continue to walk wherever he put me. And those obstacles that are in that environment are not accidental. And I must walk through those. Right? There's a nice quote by the very famous poet, Robert Frost. He says, the only way out is through. So if the environment is coming to us from the Lord, then those obstacles are also not accidental. That means that the transformation of who I'm going to become is on the other side of that quest. Right? And so then that's what they're saying in the scriptures, the fire of self-sacrifice, right? That burning, that surrender that we're walking through, some new person is going to come out. And we want to meet that person that we can become. And the only way we get the chance to do those things is by walking through what's placed for us. And we know that because it's a different obstacle for each person. That's what infinity means. Every person's getting the chance for some little transformation, some chance to rectify themselves, some chance to offer and give something. Everyone has something unique to give in their heart. Everyone's different. So maybe you have made some major progress that for me is very difficult still. And you have some other thing that for me is very easy, right? That's what that means, that it's very hand-picked what our troubles are. Why is my mind constantly disturbed by this one thing? Oh, I need to learn something there. I need to go through some transformation. I have some patterns. I have some patterns that are not in harmony with the environment. And I must go through that transfer. And then we get a taste, a tiny taste of actual progress. And it's not dependent on someone else doing something. I need to make some progress. So then he goes, of course, for beginners, there is a concern of proper environment for spiritual cultivation, but even that is dependent on their own sincerity. The assurance is given here by Krishna, and he says, I will be there to look after you in all unfavorable circumstances. I am omniscient, and I am omnipotent also. So if anyone is directed for me, I will look after them. Krishna's own words. I will be there with you in that circumstance. This means in the middle of that dark valley that we can find ourselves in, that it's not empty punishment. Something divine can be found there. And many people have. And they don't place so much importance on the superficial things of life. And we can feel it when we're near them. That The truth that is coming from their heart is so valuable. And in English, the word we're going to use is that's a saint. Right? And in Gaudiya Vaishnavism, we're going to say this is a Vaishnava. And we're going to say, if you somehow find yourself in all of your quests at the feet of such a person, life is very valuable. That's what this quest is for, that there's real people. And the world is so strange and dark that they'll say, oh, there's no such thing as actually anyone pure. Everyone is becoming pure. It's all falling apart. But that's not true. This is not the truth. There are saintly people that live, and they have a very refined and wonderful vision of reality. And when they share that with us, it opens our eyes that there can be another reality. It goes, I will look after him. And it has also been seen in history in the cases of Dhruva, Prahlad, and so many others. Sincerity is invincible. So this is Guru Maharaj's own words. Absolutely amazing. Sincerity is invincible. That same part of you that went through so many things to find some truth, some small piece of truth, that part is still alive and is carrying you on, and actually can go through any external circumstance. That's how powerful it is. And it's not paying so much attention to those things. And it's that valuable that it's worth it. Think about it. If you're an athlete, you want to do Tour de France, you want to run a marathon, which is much less than Tour de France, just running like 25 miles. How much are you going to put towards doing that little goal? A lot. You have to change the way you eat. You have to change the way you sleep. You have to change the way you exercise every single day to get just a tiny bit better. Just a tiny bit better. You have to make some transformation that's actually going to go on to like, so anything valuable going to take some sacrifice. Anything valuable isn't cheap. Spiritual life is no different, right? If you want to run a marathon, you're going to do quite a few things. So spiritual life isn't just some like sideline thing that just like pours on. There's something we have to offer something into the world of sacrifice, right? And then we'll feel it's valuable. How is it valuable if it just like kind of falls into no transformation of ours? No, it's demanding some transformation. And then it feels very and worth it. We would go through all of those shadowy chapters again if we knew we could find something valuable at the end. That's what an adventure is. And we are definitely on an adventure, desperately searching. Time is kind of running out. All of the things are happening, right? It's not a good movie if you know that the character will win. You're like falling asleep. Like, it's only good where he might not win. They might not get it. Looking very dangerous, looking very scary, looking impossible, right? And we're saying, devotees are saying, this quest, we want to try and know the source of infinite reality. Well, that's a big quest. The source where this planet that we live on is compared to a mustard seed. And unlimited planets are flying, coming from him. This infinite source of reality, we want to try and connect with him. And they're saying even the creator of the Sampradaya is having troubles. Or the creator of our universe is mystified. Who is this divine Lord? Right? And then Rupa Goswami, like he goes, even Lord Brahma is struggling to see the tips of the nails of your lotus feet. Still, O Achyuta, I have heard of the waves of your astonishing mercy, and I yearn to see you. Right? These are like the devotee prayers. They're saying, when I hear you're the friend of the devotee, like I'm feeling stressed, like very horrible, like what's my chance? He goes, but when I hear you're the friend of the fallen, I'm feeling very like hopeful, like I hear you're very kind, and this is giving me some energy for this impossible journey that I'm going on, because I hear that you have astonishing mercy, right? So then the last sentence in this paragraph here, it goes, it has been seen in history in the cases of Dhruva, Prahlad, and so many others. Sincerity is invincible. Even obstacles may improve our position if we can take them in the right way. From a higher angle of vision, it can be seen that everything is coming to help us. Amazing. You know, there's a very famous sentence in English. It says, pride comes before the fall, right? Meaning this aggressive nature gets pushed into the environment, and then we have to learn. But what happens? What's breaking? Some false sense of self. So then when he's saying here, obstacles can improve our position, means we have a few compartments in ourselves that we think like God can't see. And we're going to hold on to those and kind of keep pushing in this other path. But that's not true. He sees us more than we see us. We're unknown to ourselves, but we're known by the upper quarter. So these obstacles that come are coming to break some false sense of self if gone through the right way. And then we know that what looks like so terrible is also coming from somewhere that loves us. And that's amazing. And we know it's true when we see people who go through tremendously difficult circumstances and still something in them is full of realization. And we're so shocked that it's true. And we hear there's stories every day of people who live unbelievably difficult circumstances and they're still praising the Lord. And even in Guru Maharaj's example, he's saying we've been seeing in the case of Prahlad. Well, who's Prahlad? What is this story? It's not even from this age we're living in. It's such an ancient story. They say it comes from another time. And we know if a story survives through time, it has something valuable, and otherwise it gets lost. Everything is always getting lost. So why does this story of the millions of stories survive? What is so mysterious hiding in this story? Well, among many things, Prahlad's father is very powerful. And Guru Maharaj's own words, he says, and Prahlad's father caused him a lot of disturbance. And his own father is not only the most power, like we can imagine all the power in this world. There's no one that exists right now that's as powerful as Prahlad. No one. Because we have all these separate, he's like not only the ruler of earth, but like all the other systems that we can imagine. He's become that powerful. And he wants to teach a lesson that's so extreme to Prahlad that he decides to try and murder him. To have your own father murder you is pretty dramatic. The stories are dramatic if we pay attention to them. That's an extreme situation to be thrown off of a cliff, to be poisoned, to be thrown with snakes, the wild elephant. Any one of these we could call a stressful day. Like these are extremely heavy circumstances that he's being put into. And we could say they're traumatizing and horrifying and everything. What is the father supposed to represent? The ultimate protection, right? He's supposed to be your protection. When you're a young child, there's supposed to be a person that protects you. That's what their job is. It's literally in the title of father, practically. Like, so the exact opposite is happening. The most powerful person is going against the most innocent, right? 5-year-old child is in danger. This is like every culture of the world can agree that this is horrible, right? You don't have to be like a big philosopher to go, oh, this is like you can see the quality of a society is in how good it will take care of people that are vulnerable, right? That shows some of the goodness in the people that's left. How much will they take care of someone who has no ability to take care of themselves? Whether they're old, when you get a chance to serve them when they're old, or whether they're very young and they can't take care of themselves yet, this is showing some of the quality that is left in people, right? And we see it all the time that something wonderful comes out of someone's heart and we go, oh my gosh, it's like heart-wrenching. So Prahlad is in a dangerous circumstance. And what is it revealing? It's showing us what's inside of Prahlad. We don't get the chance to know he's a pure devotee. Devotees are very humble. Devotees are very tolerant. Do we have any idea of what kind of devotion is in his heart until he's in extreme circumstances? All of those beautiful things are coming out of Prahlad's heart in these obstacles. And there's purpose in them. So we also have some obstacles to go through, some transformation. And that chance for that deep nobility to come out gets that chance as these obstacles come. Because when you look around at someone else and you see that they're going through something quite tough, and here's a little secret, everybody is. Everybody is going through something tough. It doesn't take much detective work. There's something that's just right there for each person, some kind of tragedy, some kind of difficulty, some kind of mental disturbance, something's going on. And it's that chance when you see them going through that in a dignified way, you go, oh, this is some glimmer of the faithful world is coming through. And it's beautiful to see that. And then it also relieves us because a big part of our resistance is this shouldn't be happening right now, right? I get that other people are going through stuff, but when it comes to me, oh, like, can we just take a pause and do it later, right? But we know when we see someone else going through that and they're going, oh, and not only that, they're seeing their faith is deepened, not weakened, that it is becoming more profound, the realizations they're having on the nature of reality. And then we go, oh, these prayers are not just some strange exaggeration of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, right? You put me in heaven or hell. I don't want the wealth. I don't want the women. I don't want the mystical power. What are we talking about? There's something so valuable that everything else is becoming like pale in comparison. And we want connection with something real, right? We want the words that we speak to connect with something real in an authentic, alive spiritual life. And that is when we're going through the real parts of our day and remembering the Lord, right? There's all these directives they're saying all the time, 108 things that you should do. And then they're like, well, that's too many, maybe 54 things okay, that's too many, 22. Then it gets down to 2. Always remember him, never forget him. And so in our real life, we're going, oh, the Lord has placed this circumstance. I don't know why. And I may not be revealed why. But I will go through that experience because he is behind everything. I accept. And not that, only that, I want to offer myself to what that day has inside of it, to what that moment has inside of it. And I want to remember him, not just later in the evening after the day. I want to remember him as I'm going through the day. Oh, Krishna, you want me to see this person? Okay, I don't know why I'm supposed to see this person exactly. May something valuable come from my mouth. May I try to use that moment in your service. You want me to cook this meal? Like at least in our mind, we can offer it. Okay, Lord, please, I'm trying to cook this. May this energy worship you. May I connect my real moments of my real life with your service and accept whatever you want to give me, knowing that it's for my benefit. And I can say, just from my own very, very small, limited experience, that there's life inside of it. And things that seemed not obvious, that they were so hidden on the side, can come right into the middle. And you're like, oh, that's what we're talking about. How cool. Like, it's actually amazing. And it's like, Guru Maharaj's own words, he's saying, darkness is coming to enhance the light. Bitterness is coming to enhance the sweet. Sadness is coming to enhance the joy. Why? Because we're going through this adventure, and you go through a whole bunch of fake things. You know how much joy you have when you touch one real thing. It's that exciting. We're just lying to ourselves all day, these little control trippers, and we let it go, and something amazing happens, and you get the chance to go, oh, this is what we're talking about all the time. Not just the empty ritual on the outside of what we're talking about, like the heart of the thing. Otherwise, why in the scriptures are there so many stories? They're here to teach us. They have so much affection for us. All the scriptures have so much affection for us. They're saying strange stories, like stories of prostitutes that are all of a sudden having revelations. We could say, like, this is the outside of society, is that person. And what is the Lord saying? I don't care what you're doing. I don't care what your background is. I'm looking for some heart thing. Otherwise, you have the priest who looks so good, who's kind of dark inside. And you have the simple sinner who has something sweet inside. That's what we're talking about. It's not exactly what it seems. And only the Lord knows the deep interior heart of something, right? That's why, like, this idea of humility being open to infinite possibility means we don't know. Infinite possibility means we have like 5 possibilities, 6, 20. We don't have infinite. We don't know what's in the heart of that person. And that's why they're saying you don't know what's inside someone's heart. You don't know where devotion is. So you can be open-minded. You can reserve some of that judgment. Not everything you think is true. You don't know what's in the heart of that person. And you start offering yourself to the Lord, and things will come to you. Right? That's why all the old scriptures, they have stories like some beggar comes to your door asking for a cup of water. And who is it actually? Like King of Heaven, some sage, and you're thinking like, oh, you're like, get away. I don't want to, like that. That's what we're talking about. It's very exciting because we're getting revealed by these circumstances. Maybe we're just like a, small-minded, judgmental person that just wants to be good. Well, that's not enough. Goodness isn't enough. Has to be serving. Otherwise, goodness can be like kind of an ego of like, I'm definitely going to a good place, so I don't even need God. It's not a works-oriented world, right? But we don't even need God if we can just do a bunch of rules and go back to him. Our hearts don't even need to be purified. Our inner world doesn't need to change much because I'm so good. Not so simple. That transformation, right? That's why they're saying these in Gurudev's own words. We can be in the temple and doing karma. Someone's living outside, he's doing service. Why are we hearing that story? Why bother? Because inside we have a mantra that we're chanting. We have to pay attention to that mantra and actually start chanting a real one. Right? The mantra is, I am the heroic victim of my circumstances. Everyone around me is awful. Right? So that is very, very important that we pay attention. Then when we're in the temple, we're there because we volunteer with a heart. We're volunteering to be there. We're trying to see the good in other people. We're trying to speak the good as best the truth as deep as we can, the affectionate truth as much as we can, and trying to cultivate an appreciating perspective on reality. And whether that's in the temple or out of the temple or in our job or with our family or any other circumstance, we can start to feel some transformation come to us, and we can try it, right? We can be like a little scientist with our lives. If we're addicted to thinking bad thoughts about other people, we can try to think good thoughts about other people. In the ending of Bhagavad Gita, it says you can perform a sacrifice of the mind, right? We hear the word sacrifice. They said if you read scripture, that's called the scripture sacrifice. You can read lots of things. And if you have trouble reading scripture, just read maybe 2 sentences or 1 page. Just perform that sacrifice. If you like speaking about other people, right? It's like can be kind of nice. The ego feels really happy. I'm actually pretty good. They're annoying. Then we're doing the mouth sacrifice. I won't speak about those people like that, and I will perform this experiment on my life, and I will see the quality of my thoughts and the quality of my life when I try to do these different things and see what happens. And there's a very famous quote by Marcus Aurelius, who was one of the 5 great emperors of Rome and very, very famous for his meditations, which were his, it's kind of part of the Stoic movement. And he said, the quality of your life is determined by the quality of your thoughts. And there's another very nice quote that says, become guardian to the gateway of your mind. So very interestingly, Srila Sridhar Maharaj was given the title, the guardian of devotion, right? Each higher level of consciousness has some protection around it. Some kind of transformation must occur for us to participate. And so what the scriptures are saying is the job of the upper world is to pull you to your service. That's their job. You don't need to push into your service. You work on transforming. They will see that. They will pull you into your service. It will reveal itself. The next step will already be coming to you. You don't need to aggressively push. And that's where these very famous sentences of Guru Maharaj, where he says, the highest appreciation for the least service. So then their example is very famous, highly educated doctor. He's sweeping the front porch. Right? Is that the sum of his skills? No. It's showing an example. You do that small thing. You transform that interior world that's full of bitterness, that's full of anger, that's full of greed, that's full of envy. And that world will see that, and they can't stop themselves because it's so beautiful. That's why one of the 6 limbs of surrender is humility. It's so beautiful that it has the possibility of attracting the higher world. It's so stunning that it has the ability to attract the higher world. Not your external beauty, not your external intelligence. Like, we're not going to be so smart to manipulate God. Right? All of the things that work below us don't work above us. But humility is so attractive that higher world will pull you forcibly to your next service. And it sounds kind of woo-woo and you do a magical thing inside and then the service is going to come. And it's completely true. And you'll find, even in the simplest of jobs, if you put your whole attention to it, it will lead you to the next thing. So we want to put our full attention to what has come to us and offer ourselves to the moment, knowing that God has placed us in that circumstance with no accident. There's no error. And then we can actually feel real progress in our lives. Not fake progress that other people can observe that make our egos feel temporarily great. Right? That's like the whole danger of like the external aspect of media, right? If lots of people like me, then I must be likable. And it's always very superficial what we see. That's not the heart and soul of someone. So, what we're searching for is the heart and soul of the thing. And whether we're liked or not liked, that's secondary. Connection, and that's primary. That mood is primary. And then all of the other stuff comes, right? They're saying, what is happening with the guru? All the fame is coming to the guru, right? And what is he doing with it? Offering it to the Lord. He doesn't even keep it. It's because the Lord wants me to have this. All the money is coming. All the disciples are giving to the guru. He gives it. He doesn't keep anything, right? That's like a sweet reciprocation. All those things can come, but they're like the side quests, and we keep on forgetting what we're doing all the time. That's why remembrance is a practice of devotion, right? The main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. So, from Guru Maharaj's own words, from a higher angle of vision, it may be seen that everything is coming to help us. So, that is the good news. And I hope that was helpful to you all. Those are some things that I have tried to meditate on in this small life and give me some hope. So I try to share that with you all.
Thank you, Rai Kishori Didi. It's like I was not sure I will keep myself from crying in some moments because you hit straight to the heart. And yeah, I was also thinking recently that I don't want to be born again, but like I have a key, but who is not giving me opportunity to use it? Just this. And like every day is like a fight, and it's like, yeah, it's the biggest enemy. It's crazy, actually.
Mm.
And we have two questions in the chat. One from Bhaktilata Didi from Russia. She's giving dandavats to you and all devotees, and she is asking, what was the most difficult for you in spiritual life? It's not a short answer, I think.
Mm. Okay, I can try to answer. Anyways, first, my dandavats to all. I would say, well, when I was young, like 12 years old, I remember thinking, what if it's all not real? Like, what if it's like all the stuff we're talking about, the Lord and his friends and all of it? Like, what if it's not real? And I was like, really kind of thinking about it quite, because there's all these planets, all these different kinds of living beings, aliens, if you want to call them that. That's really a Gandharva is an alien, all these kinds of things. You have to pay attention. And I thought, what if it's not real? And then I sat with that for a while. Now, remember, this is 12-year-old realization, so it's going to be small. and and then I thought, I'm okay with it not being real because I like this practice. I think it's beautiful. So that was where I stayed for some period of time. I like this idea of cooking prasadam and offering it. I like it. And I can tell you, of the things that I adore, I absolutely love kirtan. And I can't deny, I mean, like, I feel like if I don't love kirtan, it's because I've done some terrible offense and I will have to suffer like crazy until I can love kirtan again, because there's so many things you can learn from these kirtans. And they're just absolutely stunning. They're just like, they're so beautiful. The sentiments of them are so beautiful. So I thought, okay, I love prasadam. I love this idea of community. I love kirtan. That's then just leave it. You like this. The idea of giving is beautiful. Now I can truthfully say that's not my realization now, but that was enough. But you need something to be beyond you a little bit, where you can say, okay, I'm willing to not know everything, but some feeling in my heart is carrying me on. Now we go to the question. I don't consider myself humble or any of these beautiful qualities. And we will get the chance to practice what we're talking about. That's what the environment is doing. So, Srila Gurudev, his most quoted verse, be humble, okay, be tolerant, and give honor to others without expecting it for yourself. So, humility, we've talked about a little bit. I personally collect quotes on humility because I find it some very mysterious thing. And you could say the opposite of humility is pride, right? So there's a sentence in the scriptures that says, pride is the pathway to hell. Well, that's extreme. We're trying not to go to a hellish place as possible, though we find ourselves there. So, what is difficult about spiritual life? I have some demons inside of me. Okay. I'm prideful. There's a very nice quote by a poet. His name was Khalil Gibran. He said, the pain that you feel is the cracking of your understanding. Sometimes the environment is coming to us and it's very destabilizing, and that's difficult, right? The thing that we were kind of anchoring on isn't quite an anchor, and we have to go through and recalibrate. That's difficult. So this idea that humility is one of these 6 limbs of surrender is very profound. And this practice of tolerance is very unusual. And I'll give a real life example as best I can without revealing exact details, but in a practical way. So I found myself many years ago around someone who disliked me very much. And I had a service that would put me in proximity with them once a week minimum. So when I was younger, because I'm a kind of like loud, aggressive person, I would probably just get in some kind of argument or something like that. But we're trying to practice these things, like I was saying, as a real experiment on our lives, right? So we can feel this urge when someone's annoying to talk about them with someone else. Like, did you realize how annoying that, like we feel those urges of the mouth, of the mind, of the this to just take us on these little insane rides, right? And it's like, I would just be so happy if the environment was different. Okay. And we're hearing from Guru Maharaj today, right? Like that is not the key to happiness, is that the environment conforms to your mind. This is like a seriously difficult thing to like get into your mind, right? It's not doing what your control trip is. Your mind is consumed with control. So we hear. try to be tolerant. So instead of reacting to this person, I really thought about it a lot. And I thought, I'm going to go and be in proximity to them and not uh, be like rude. Like, I will tolerate what they say towards me. I will try to do this service every week, even though like what my ego wants to do is just not go, right? I don't want to go to the temple where this person is. I don't want to deal with them. They're very irritating. Okay. And instead of letting that be the main thing, I'm consciously, voluntarily going weekly to be within very close proximity to this person. So I will practice, because tolerance is means there's something that you have on your shoulders that you're carrying. That's what it means. There's a weight. There's a feeling of, I want to get this off of me. I'm done. So Guru Maharaj is talking about in spiritual life that the soul can only exist in three spaces in consciousness. We're either exploiting or running away. And the third is bhakti. So when we are getting along with our friends, we're exploiting them. Unless it's truly devotional, which hopefully one day we have a little more of a glimmer of what that means. But usually when we're getting along with people, they have similar interests as us and we're all exploiting together. And aren't they amazing because they're my friends? Okay. It's just kind of, even Bhaktisiddhanta says this about marriage. He says two people are just exploiting each other, right? Unless there's something divine, it's just like a transaction. And his word that he uses is mercenary, right? So this mercenary, he goes, we have to give up this mercenary relationship with the environment, right? Everything's transactional. I do this for you. You give this to me. That means we're friends. If you don't, you're not the friend I need. It's like this very selfish world. So we here try to tolerate. So this experience for me continues for well over 2 years. Okay. And like, I consider myself kind of an impatient person. I'm very fast. Everything I do is kind of fast. I have like live this really busy, like everything I do is busy. I work really long hours. Everything's busy, fast, fast, fast. And there's no resolution coming quickly. Right. And I've even like trying sometimes, like maybe I can say something kind of like pleasant and like just like we can move on. And no. And during this time period, so I would say that's very difficult to practice, and I'm not good at it. I can say I'm not an expert at any, I'm just expressing my own small experience. Okay. So when we have the chance to like practice tolerance, it's always difficult. It means something's happening that I don't want. And then you have to really go through these meditations. Oh, the Lord is behind everything. He is providing the environment, and I'm willing to go through it. So one of my favorite stories is from this amazing book, Centennial Anthology, super humble book. It's like practically falling apart. It is an anthology of by Srila Madhusudana Maharaj put together. And it's like one chapter from like all these different books of our own scriptures. And I highly, highly recommend. The first part's Guru Maharaj's life. And the second part is chapters from other books. This is an amazing book. It's one of my favorite books. And I actually hope we reprint it because it's like falling apart. It's just a humble printing. So there's a story in there that I used to try and practice the tolerance that I'm not very good at. It's Guru Maharaj's own life story. He comes in contact with Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's devotees and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. And he's very charmed. Srila Guru Maharaj came from a highly educated background. He was a full lawyer. His family spoke Sanskrit in their family home, which is an extremely sophisticated, complex language. And they come from a background of reading and memorizing scriptures, just as a beginning. And he meets Srila Bhaktisiddhanta's disciples, and he's charmed by their understanding of scripture. He's amazed. And he hears some of the words from Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, and he's like just shocked. So he goes to meet Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, and he goes to the doorway, and there was a person at the door that was sort of like a bodyguard. Like he was kind of a lower class person, and he was quite rude to Srila Guru Maharaj, saying like, yeah, you can't come in here right now. And so Guru Maharaj is coming from a very, in old cultures, there's very careful ways to speak to each other, right? Think about the word gentleman. Means there's a soft way of speaking to someone where you're very careful how you speak to them. So he was thinking like, well, this is reflecting bad on the organization that someone's like so callous and kind of low class in the way that they're speaking. So it's something for us to think about. We should be careful in how we speak, right? It's actually sophisticated to speak carefully to people. And so Guru Maharaj leaves, and he's thinking like, well, maybe they're not actually like so advanced. He's like thinking, so he refers to the scripture. There's an ancient story of Sukadev Goswami. And Sukadev Goswami is going to visit a very famous king, Janaka. And this kingdom where Janaka lives, King Janaka has 7 gateways. And at each one of these gates, you must wait 7 days to pass to see if you're actually like sophisticated, that you're allowed to go through. You have to show your quality. And he goes, if Sukadev Goswami is willing to wait 49 days to see King Janaka, I can wait past this person and I will go try and see Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. So he's now taking what's the important thing is this goal. And the secondary thing, I will learn to tolerate because I want to go for this goal. This is a very helpful practice in spiritual life. Remember what you're going for in the first place. In the moment, there's all this tolerating that's going on, but that's okay because I'm not doing it for these small reasons. I'm on a larger journey, and this I will happily accept as part of this journey, even though it's looking rough. So that is not easy. And I don't want to paint it as easy. 2 years can feel kind of long. But so many things arrived that I wouldn't change it. And many other difficulties in my life are in a very similar category. That there is some demand of transformation, and I want to try and go on that journey. It doesn't mean it's glamorous, doesn't mean it's cute. Sometimes it's extremely ugly, but it's worth it because we're going towards something beautiful. And we ultimately, on the deepest sense, we are something beautiful, but we have a few layers. And those things need to be left behind. And that's what they're saying when they're talking about die to live. Something in us has to die. And we're feeding that thing that needs to die. That's the thing, is we think it's just there accidentally. No, we are feeding that egotistical thought process. And we say it's us. So when it's dying, it feels like we're dying, but it's not us that's dying. It's this false sense of self that's dying. And we're carrying this very heavy bag of bricks of selfishness, lugging it up a mountain and think that it's us. So I hope that that is helpful to contextualize a little bit, just a small idea that there are revelations that are hiding intolerance. And it's very much following this theme that nothing is as it seems. Right? So the tolerating has something in it that can be beautiful. So it is difficult to tolerate other people. It is difficult to tolerate difficult circumstances. But they're not empty. So I hope that that is helpful to you.
Thank you. I'm sure it is. And we had several devotees here asking, are we recording this Zoom to listen and listen it again? And I agree with them that hearing from you is always very nourishing. And yes, you're active, and this energy can recharge for a long time. We hope we will see you again soon.
Yes.
And please give dandavats to all in Salt Lake City, to all bhaktas and devotees. And thank you for your extra time, like last 22 minutes. Much
Yeah.
appreciated.
Yeah, it was a question that I feel like you can't answer super fast. So it needed a little time. And this idea we can close on is, like in India, they're saying namaste, right? They're saying like some divine, like the Stoics would say, divine providence has placed you in my path, right? And then in India, they're saying namaste. So some by divine providence, I get to see your beautiful faces today. And I offer my obeisances to that. That is no doubt the will of the Lord. And very exciting. And then actually, like the idea of this word swastika, right? Like stolen, but originally from India as a sign of auspiciousness. Su means auspicious, asti ka, to you. I'm wishing all auspiciousness to you, right? It's such a nice way to like meet people. Sometimes I even think it just in my mind when I'm speaking to someone like Su Astika, like something wonderful come to you. Like you hear Gurudev would say it, like, may Krishna bless you, like some wonderful thing. So divine providence put me on this chat. I offer my respectful obeisances to all of you, my well wishes to all of you. And, may some revelation and some connection come in your life, some nourishment, some transformation. Jai Srila Gurudev.
I will say thank you for all of us. And from myself also, you are one of the devotees who I met online a year ago. I keep telling that, like, because Intoleka Didi was recording what he was sharing on October Thailand Fest, and you keep me going on, like your energy, Sudarshan Prabhu, and all your family. So big dandavats to all of you.
And Ardandavasi, and you know what? We can say, think about how powerful that is. The battery, like we can hear sound, it can pierce through all of these layers into like this very bound place. That's what we're saying. Divine sound can pierce. And why? Think about it. In Kali Yuga, that cow has 4 legs in the older times, and each leg is getting cut. And what's left in Kali Yuga is the truth, right? That cow is standing on one leg of the truth. So one little tiny bit of truth is coming and we resonate with it. And Guru Maharaj's own words, he says, no one will need to verify for us when we come into contact with something real. And we're all here because something has already occurred, some brush with the truth. And we're on that desperate quest for the truth, right? For that to like nourish us, to make it through all of that tar that's going on. So
That's perfect. Okay. Dandavat. Yes.
All right.
How to finish.
Dandavat.
Dandavat to Jai Gurudev. Jai Rai Kishori Didi ki Jai.
Haribo.